Hello and welcome to the TTT News Special. I'm DK Roster. Thank you so much for joining us. We are happy to have this conversation on this auspicious day. We are speaking with Firefighter St. Catherine Pompey and the Divisional Fire Officer Ronnie Stanley. We want to thank you so much for making the time at this point in time. But we want to start off with you, please, Firefighter Pompey. And I guess it'd be remiss of me not to start off by saying Eid Mubarak, but I also want to get a little information about you, thank you, because just to start off with your name, St. Catherine Pompey, it seems as though you're destined for great things. So give us a little background information, thank you.
Hi. My background, I am a young mother of two lovely boys. Right? I am an ambitious person. Yes, as you said, I destined for great things. I always put my best foot forward and go for whatever goals I set out.
And in terms of putting that best foot forward, what was it like with regard to the training process to become a firefighter?
The training process, like any military or paramilitary training requirement, it was hard, it was challenging, and I had to do what I had to do to persevere and achieve my success with the training.
All right, and I'm glad you say something like that, because if you say it was easy, man, I breeze through that. I don't want you out no fire by me. In terms of having that level of confidence that the firefighters who come to deal with the situation are able to do so. And with that, I want to include you, please, Officer Stanley, because and even looking at the fact that we're saying Firefighter Pompey versus Officer or Divisional Fire Officer Stanley, what's the difference between those titles? Explain that for me, please.
All right, let me first say Eid Mubarak to the entire Muslim community. And now, once you train with the organization, the first rank is always a firefighter. So once you go through and you pass out, you become a firefighter. Now, the general public would use the term fire officer, generalizing all persons that operate under the organization. But the first rank is actually firefighter. And from firefighter, then your first promotion in the second division would be fire sub officer, which is the one with two bars or two stripes, as the common person would call it. And officership starts from there going upwards. So it starts as firefighter.
All right, thank you so much. And going back to you, please, Firefighter Pompey. Why decide, okay, well, this is something that I want to do? What led you in this direction?
As a young mother again, right, I would always aim to do things that will leave a lasting impression on my kids. So when the opportunity possessed itself, I took it. I wasn't quite certain of how I was going to go about it, because I was like, okay, I'm going to be a firefighter, right? But then when I thought of the outcome in terms of what it will do for my kids and for myself, I went forward with it, and I don't have any regrets, or, you know, it was actually a good experience for me, and I appreciate it.
Now, saying it was a good experience for you is one thing, but going through the process, is there any person like family, friends asking you, girl, you sure this is what you want to do? Or or create those kind of doubts, put them in your mind?
There wasn't anyone to discourage me or deter me from making this move. However, myself, yeah, I would question myself at times, like, you know, like, you sure you want to outfire again? You know, but it was actually me taking a risk. I am a risk taker, so I was willing to do what I think was impossible or any other person would think is impossible of me. And I am glad that I actually put myself in position and challenged myself to actually do what was unexpected, you know, so yeah.
And I also realized I didn't say congratulations as yet, so saying that as well because you recently passed out. And I want to ask the divisional fire officer, in how often or how consistently do you have the calls and put the opportunity out that firefighter Pompey would have taken the opportunity to do so? But how often do you put that call out and say, okay, well, we need more individuals in the service. We need some people. Let us put out the call and see who answers that call.
Well, that is a call that has to be made by the chief fire officer. As long as they do the manpower audit within the organization, based on persons leaving, whether through retirement, resignations, whatever it is, and the chief fire officer would make that call. In terms of the auxiliary fire service, again, the onus falls on the chief fire officer to make that call in conjunction with the chief staff officer. All right. But I have to add to this in terms of firefighter Pompey. She is actually the first female Muslim firefighter to actually train and pass out with her hijab. Now, we have Muslim firefighters in the service, but nobody ever made the request to stick to what they know as their customs and beliefs. And she would have actually pushed the envelope a bit to get that done. And we facilitated. Now, I must say, our chief fire officer, Mr. Marlon Smith, when he was approached on this matter, because she had to make the formal request, and he is all-encompassing. He is one who believes in equality, equal rights for all, because at the end of the day, we live in a multi-religious, multi-ethnic society. So he had absolutely no problems in allowing this to happen, because it is happening throughout the other organizations. And having her be the first to do that, and added to that, she would have also been able to pass out as the top female trainee of her batch in Trinidad. So that in itself is also a huge credit to her, right? And she really said she likes she likes challenges, and she really took that challenge on front and center.
And I like the fact that when we hear him, we're finding out some things. So in terms of taking the challenge, you said you like to take risks. Looking, and it seems as though you want to be a shining example for your two wonderful boys, and that is something that goes a far way, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, out in fire, but extinguishing fires and saving lives. And but looking at the fact, though, that you said that you may not have been discouraged by family or friends, but sometimes these thoughts would come up in your mind. You're really sure you want to do this? What would you tell yourself, or how would you deal with the situation when those thoughts arose?
It was easy for me to deal with those thoughts. All I had to do is think about my beautiful boys. So when I thought about if I give up, I'll be failing them. And as a parent, my aim is never to fail my boys and always be a shining example to them, right? To be something that, to be a person where they will feel comfortable to look up to, as well as they will be happy to say, this is my mom, right? So the challenges, it was easy to overcome once I thought of them and what I wanted for them.
But Officer Stanley, I feel like you're dealing with a motivational speaker in training, you know? Because people's go money to hear these sorts of things, in the sense that, and I could see that being transposed to, okay, well, it's not about you. This is something that is bigger than yourself. You're doing it because of this, and finding that motivation to push forward. But we take a short break. When we return, we are speaking with Divisional Fire Officer Ronnie Stanley and the freshly passed out Auxiliary Firefighter St. Catherine Pompey. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are speaking with Auxiliary Firefighter St. Catherine Pompey and Divisional Fire Officer Ronnie Stanley. And the firefighter Pompey, she recently passed out or graduated, and she was the top female in Trinidad. So we're saying there's loads of congrats that we are sending your way. But I'm wondering though, were there any special provisions? You said the training or the process of training, it wasn't easy, but were there any special provisions that were needed? And depending on when you would have passed out, you may have already entered the month of Ramadan. So I'm wondering if that as well would have provided some, I guess, unique challenges for you.
So with me being the first female hijabi to be a part of the fire service, the auxiliary fire service, yes, it was challenging, but provisions were made because this was something new to me as well as to the organization, and they did not turn me away, did not shun me away. They actually accepted me. I wasn't forced to compromise, and gradually they dealt with it, they worked out the situation, and I am here today, right? So they actually made it special for me, and they didn't single me out as, okay, this is not a part of us, and leave it as that. They actually worked along and had it done.
And that makes me wonder, Officer Stanley, because sometimes when people don't understand something, or say like if you take it to the level of school, you have primary school children, they don't understand, so they laugh. That's how they deal within themselves. You grow a little older, sometimes people may not speak to you directly or address you directly, but you see the stares and you hear some of the conversation behind. And I guess it's just a testament to the organization that you are a part of, that this was possible, this happened, because we still, unfortunately, live in an age where you have some people sometimes talking to each other and say, Gil, the work there, they don't like people with this kind of hairstyle. So in terms of taking those steps forward and carrying the conversation forward, I think it's so important. I'm not sure, I trust you agree with me.
Yes, now, as I said previously, let's face the facts. Her being the first, as she put it, the first hijabi, it would have been challenging for us because a number of our officers and training crew had some safety concerns, because what we would have known as the hijab would have been the head cover with a free-flowing fabric. And obviously in firefighting and rescue missions, that could be a hindrance, it could be a fire hazard, it could get caught in one of the rescue machinery. So there were concerns. And we quickly got together after I spoke to the deputy chief fire officer, and then we spoke to the chief fire officer. We quickly got together and, well, we put our heads together. We looked at other organizations that had Muslims operating within their realms. And we came up with systems and values that could accommodate Ms. Pompey. And as I say, hats off to Chief Fire Officer Marlon Smith for spearheading that way forward in terms of the hijab issues and the Muslim female in the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service.
And I want to fasten your business a little more. Was it a matter of also looking at materials? Because yes, you say, okay, well, you don't want it free flowing, but then at the same time, some materials may have properties that you may want to use more than others in terms of like how flammable they are. So was that part of the equation, part of the thing that you would have had to look at?
Definitely. These would all be things that we had to take under consideration, because you would more or less want to use fabric that are a little more fire retardant than the others. So definitely, yes, we looked at all that aspect. At this point, I must say that it's still work in progress, although she has passed out and she's here with us. It is still a working process because there are some things that we definitely would need to fine tune and actually put within the regulations so that it governs the operations going forward in terms of future firefighters coming into the service, firefighters here presently in the service and operating already. So we definitely would need to continue building on it so that we have something solid in going forward.
I like the fact that you speak of going forward. I also appreciate the fact that you speak of precedents and having things built into the system. So it's not as though, all right, well, this is what happened for her, but we're going to do it a little different for somebody else. So we can see, okay, well, this is something that is formalized and you can build upon. But keeping with the idea of going forward, though, Ms. Pompey, do you see yourself as a trendsetter or an example? Because yes, we know you see yourself, and rightfully so, as a shining example for your two boys. But in terms of people who may say, okay, well, this is an option that I never really thought of in terms of entering the fire service. Do you see yourself standing there representing that for others who may follow in your footsteps?
Most certainly I do. There are females who probably want to do the job, right? They not just being a firefighter, but there are so many things in life as a woman, and especially as a female Muslim, it kind of limits you to what you can do, and that's just based on society, right? And what they stigmatize. So with me being an example of taking the step to become a firefighter as a Muslim, right, I would advise anyone that is willing to do something, who have a goal and willing to achieve it, that they could put the best foot forward like I did, and trust and believe that it could be possible, and they just go through it and they will be successful as well.
And one of the things I appreciate is the fact that things that have held status for so long sometimes can change in the blink of an eye. And even like today, earlier today, I was speaking to someone about the fact that face coverings, hijabs, those things were looked at a certain way. And then, according to the Prime Minister, COVID come, and now everybody is covering the face, and that is the rule of thumb, and people are dressing it up and looking fancy with it, making sure that it matches their outfit, if you want to go to that thing. But it's amazing how sometimes all you need is one instance or one spark or one catalyst to move the whole thing forward. But I will not, it will be remiss of me though, Mr. Stanley, if I don't allow for some housekeeping in terms of being safe during this time. What are we supposed to be doing with fires, without fires, what we have permission for? I know that we're transitioning into the wet season, even though we heard that it may not start off as wet as in times past. So what information and tips do you have for us?
Well, first of all, let me say that we would have experienced a dry season that has been like no other in recent past. We had a lot more rainfall within this dry season. But however, that does not take away from the fact that it's still in the dry season. And based on the law, persons wishing to light fires are still required to have some kind of permission to do so. That's one. Sometimes persons go into these things, say, let's say, okay, I plant a garden and I want to clear my land and I decide to light a fire to burn a small heap, and that's how it starts. Now, if you do not understand the dynamics of fire and how quickly it spreads, it is not something that you should take lightly. So we still need to observe the protocol. We still need to observe the fact that we are in the dry season, just transitioning. And so all protocols remain in place, remain intact, unless otherwise said, all right? In terms of home, we know that we have a number of persons are now going to be venturing to cook. Maybe they haven't seen a stove in quite a while and all that kind of thing. Persons, well, it is encouraged that persons have at least one fire extinguisher in their household. If not, just make sure that you understand what you are to do in terms of safety. You know, if your pot happens to take fire on the inside, it's not about just taking water and dash it in the pot because everybody has the concept that water would just out fires, and that's not true. Depending on what the medium that's burning is, you can dash that water and cause it to escalate. So the wise thing to do is cover and smother that fire.
On that note, I think we have to smother this conversation, but I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you so much, Divisional Fire Officer Ronnie Stanley, and thank you and congrats once again, Auxiliary Firefighter St. Catherine Pompey. And we want to thank both of you as well as the service. Kudos to the CFO Smith for the work that you're doing and the vision you have to take this forward. And we want to thank you on behalf of the entire news team for joining us here at the TTT News Special. I'm DK Rasta. Have a good one.